Maybe it's on. Could be on your Warren North. Oh, here you go. It's under me. Or it's. Yes, it is. I'm sorry. So, I apologize. It's on notes and yours. Just Warren North. I need this. I'm sorry, man. I do what I can. I'll include it later, too. Let's see it. Maybe it's on. Could be on your Warren North. Oh, here you go. It's under me. Or it's. Yes, it is. I'm sorry. So, I apologize. It's on notes and yours. Just
Where is it now?
right here. Or it's on all the things. And, oof, this is. Give me a second. Get it situated. There you are.
So where am I? Where is it now?
Right here. Or it's on
Okay. Well, I'm not sure exactly
all the
where all we
things.
are, so that's going to be exciting. So,
Oof, this is.
but
Give me a second.
I am
Get
here
it
to talk
situated.
about
There you are.
Shelley Luther, as you may or may not know, has a salon in Dallas. What is G18? Shelley has been harassed by the city of Dallas and its court system and Clay Jenkins.
Right here.
And
Or it's on
they want to say that, well, I'm not sure exactly
all
where all we
things.
are, so that's going to be exciting. So,
Oof,
it's because the governor has given a number of
second.
executive orders. Now,
Situated.
we could talk
There you
about
are.
why those executive orders
Shelley
are
Luther,
not particularly good.
as you may or
We're
may
going
not
to
know,
assume, just for
has
the purposes of this
salon
discussion, that
in
those are all
Dallas.
legitimate orders.
What is
And
G18?
whenever the governor wants to say, I've got a new
Shelley has
law,
been
he can just do that. So we're going to do that.
harassed by
So
the
we're
city
going to
of
look at
Dallas
GA18, which
and
is the
court
latest
system.
order, Clay Jenkins,
And go to the
Right
end,
here. Or it's on
and we're going to find where it talks about. I'm not sure exactly where all we are, so that's going to be
so
exciting.
we go down to salons.
It's because the governor has given a number of
fine.
I am now.
Situated.
We could talk
There you
about.
are.
Doesn't tell me.
Shelley Luther,
Good.
as you may
We're
or may
going
not
to
know,
I have to, just for the purposes of this
salon
discussion, that
in
those are all
Dallas.
legitimate orders.
What is
And
G18?
whenever the governor wants to
What I
say,
will say,
I've got a new
Shelley
law,
has been
he can just do that. So we're going to do that.
harassed by
So
the
we're
city
going to
of
look at
Dallas
GA18, which is the
and
latest order, Clay Jenkins.
and go to the
Right
end.
here. Or it's on
We're going to find where it talks
Well,
about. I'm not sure exactly where all we are, so that's going to be
So
exciting.
we go down to
Everything's
salons.
hard. It's because the governor has given a number of.
So when you look at the
we could talk about.
There you are.
Doesn't tell me.
Shelley Luther,
Doesn't say.
we're going to
I have to. Just for the purposes of this
salon
discussion,
is a place
those are all
that
legitimate
says
orders.
that
And
people
whenever the
shall
governor wants to
will
say,
say,
I've got a new
Shelley
law,
has been
he
Keep
can
trying,
do
man.
that. So we're going to do that.
harassed.
Here, let me
So
just
we're going to look at
knock out.
GA18, which is the latest order, Clay Jenkins.
And go to the
Right
end.
here. Or it's
They-
on
It's
uh,
not
to
where
work
it
together.
talks
Well,
about. I'm not sure exactly where all
it's
we
not
are,
either.
so that's going to be
So
exciting.
we go down to
Everything's hard.
salons.
Because the governor has given a number of.
So when you look at the
We could talk about.
There you are.
Doesn't tell me.
Shelley Luther,
Just go right here.
Doesn't say. I have to. Just for the purposes of this
salon
discussion,
is a place
those are all
that says
legitimate orders.
that
And
people
whenever the
shall
governor wants to
will
say,
say,
I've got a new
Shelley
law,
has been
Keep trying, man.
so we're going to do that.
harassed.
Here we go. We're going to look at
Knock
now,
out.
as you may have noticed, is the latest order, Clay
Image.
Jenkins.
talks about shall not visit nursing homes. People shall not visit nursing homes. Now, that doesn't mean the nursing homes are closing. Of course, that'd be ludicrous. It says shall not visit nursing homes. So the governor shall not visit nursing homes. People shall not visit nursing homes.
Says
Now, that doesn't mean the nursing homes are closing. Of course, that'd be ludicrous. So, if you shall not visit nursing homes, then why do we say the governor shall not visit nursing homes? Well, it's because the governor knows what he's doing. He's saying he shall avoid that. Now, what does that mean legally? Closing, of course, that'd be ludicrous.
Not a lot. It means
If the shall not visit nursing homes,
get your
then why do
haircut
we
once a
say
month,
the
so
governor shall not visit
here,
nursing homes?
well, it's
People
because the
shall
governor
not.
knows what he's doing.
When you are a young person,
He's saying he shall avoid that.
Now, what does that mean legally?
Closing, of course. Does that mean you not
So,
allowed to have
if the shall not visit
you used to
nursing
go
homes,
get your
then why do
haircut
we
once a month,
say
it's
the
because
governor
the
shall
governor
not
knows
visit
we're
nursing
going to try
homes?
well, it's
People
because the
shall
governor
not.
knows what he's
When
doing.
you're a young person,
He's saying he shall avoid that.
Now, what does that mean legally?
Doesn't mean you never do
Not
that.
allowed. If the shall not visit nursing homes, then why do we say
Well,
the
the
governor
governor
shall not visit?
we're going to try.
I like the governor knows what he's doing.
When you're a young person, he's saying he shall avoid that.
Now, what does that mean legally?
Doesn't mean you never do
Not
that.
allowed. If the shall not visit nursing homes, then why do we say
Well,
the
the
governor shall not visit?
we're going to try.
I like the governor knows what he's doing.
When you're was writing about how we do things.
Now, what does that mean legally?
We don't mean you never do
Not
that.
allowed. If the shall not visit nursing homes, then why do we say
Well,
the governor shall not visit?
we're going to try.
I like the governor knows what he's doing.
was writing about how
I want to read you things. Now, what does that mean legally?
we don't just never do
Not
that.
allowed. If the shall. The rule of law is about form. For example, if citizens perform an act, let's say the sale of a certain technology to a foreign country, which is prohibited by a widely publicized bill proposed but not yet passed by the administration, it's passed by both houses of Congress but not yet signed by the president. Everyone knows both houses of Congress and the president wish to prevent that sale. Before the wish becomes a binding law, it must be embodied in a bill that passes both houses and is signed by the president. It's formalism. A murderer has been caught with blood on his hands, bending over the body of his victim. A neighbor with a video camera filming the crime. The murderer has confessed in writing and on videotape. We nonetheless insist, before the state can punish this miscreant, it must conduct a full-dress criminal trial that results in the verdict of guilty. It's formalism. That's what we do. We have laws. We don't decide, well, that's what the governor really means, so we're going to enforce it that way. No, it doesn't do that. Now, some of you that are watching this have gotten a little love note from TDLR. It says, we have looked at the governor's GA-18, and we say it means you've got to be closed. And for that, there's another, if you look in I just got this a few minutes ago, this right here. Salon right there. There's an excellent letter that's been put out, and Shelley Luther has this on her Facebook page, and I'll put it up in a little bit. But Shelley, of course, is a hero. Don't think otherwise. So State Rep Mike Lang, and he has sent a letter out to whom may concern, and he's talked to TDLR, and he has seen that there it is, and he has seen that it is, there we go. We have discussed this. At this time, our laws and rules do not speak to enforcement solely based on violations of the government's order. Well, why is that? It's because the governor doesn't pass laws. He interprets laws. Now, people will say, well, it's an emergency. We do things a different way. If we wanted to do that, and we talked about this in a previous email, the governor calls a special session. Special sessions pass laws. Our Texas Constitution actually says, in the case of threat disease, and it uses that phrase specifically, uses the phrase disease threat, then the governor can call a special session and pass laws. But unless he's done that, he hasn't done that. So we have here, and we have another couple of things. I was in the court this last week, and the other side said to the judge, "Oh, he took him to the actual." Let's go to the website of the governor when he had that. You should have it pulled up on the one of the tabs. That might work. No, not that one. Scooch over. Anyway, where the governor is talking about. Oh, we can do the mixed drinks, sure. About mixed drinks. And this happened a week or two ago. And the governor said, we're going to allow mixed drinks. We're going to allow alcohol to be delivered and pick up. And everybody went nuts. And the governor said this on an official website. But when the rules come out, the rules don't allow you to deliver mixed drinks. They allow you to deliver mixed drinks only if it's manufactured that way. So what the governor said on the governor's website was not law. Not law. What's law? Law are things that we pass. And if you even want to say the executive order is something that's worthwhile and that they're going to follow that, then you've got to at least follow the executive order. We don't just say, well, the governor said it on an official website or in some news interview. That's not law. It's not law. So that's a specific example of where it was very clear that what the governor said was a little imprecise. And later on, it got cleared up by TABC and the rules that everybody's following. That's why you are not theoretically supposed to be able to take laws or pick up mixed drinks unless they're manufactured that way. And the same thing happened on his website. What are we looking at?
This is the general website.
There's a general website. That's not what I want.
Executive order.
No, forget that. Let's go to the tabs that we've got set up. Let's go to this one here. All right. No. We can go with this one. Sure. This is Texas Helping Texans. Scroll down. There you go. And this is the website. This is put out. This is the governor's plan for going forward. And what you'll see here is that nowhere in here does it say, it doesn't have the word salon in here. And so then the next step is that the officers of the state will say, well, it says everybody's got to stay home and minimize contact. We're minimizing contact. We don't go to the salons as often as we used to. Well, but that's not what it says. Well, that's what it says. And let's look at that. Let's look at that actual order again, the GA18 order. So in there, we're getting there. Or any of the orders. Oh, they're all the orders are the same. They use the same language. Back down to the salon. Let's look at what it does say. Shall not visit nursing homes. Okay, so who's the burden on here? People shall not visit nursing homes. And so people can't go to. So the person who's breaking the rule is the person going to the nursing home. Let's go to the salons. Should be up there, just above that. People shall avoid visiting bars. People shall avoid the salons. So who's breaking the law if the salon's open? Turns out nobody. There's no law that says a salon has to be closed. A lot of salons have some things that they have to do. You see a lot of cosmetological salons. That's not quite right. Cosmetology salons that are doing some medical things, and so they have the right to be open. They do some medical things. They also take care of hair. They can be open. There's nothing against the law of that. And if you just look at the simple wording, and this is true of the GA14, GA16, and GA18, all of these executive orders have the same thing. And so you'd think that if the governor was imprecise and didn't really mean to say what he said in GA14, he would have fixed that in 16 or fixed it in 18. But no, he hasn't. He hasn't fixed those in any of those things. So the governor has had ample opportunity to say salons have to be closed in writing and a law, and he hasn't. And he's an attorney, and he is the governor. He's probably got some advisors along the way that are helping him. Now, you may see that the district, AG, Ken Paxton, he has an office that's put out a document not too long ago that said, well, we interpret it to mean it's closed. Yeah, I don't care what your interpretation is. It's bold and it's wrong. The governor's executive order says what it says. It doesn't say a salon has to be closed. It doesn't say that a salon can't serve people. If anybody is breaking the law, it's the clients who are going there only more than they're not avoiding it. I used to go get my hair cut once a month, and now I'm still going to get my hair cut once a month. I am violating that law. But if I used to get my hair cut once a month, and now I'm going every 3 months, I'm complying with this so-called law. That's the bottom line. And anybody who wants to tell you different is just reading something into it. Now let's take it this point and say, this is not legal advice that you can depend on. Don't go tell them, well, Warren said this. Because it's just my opinion, right? I don't write laws either. Like the governor, I don't write laws. So, and I will defend you if you pay me money, but or if I really like you. But that's the problem. So you can only do so much. Take it for what it's worth. Now, people call me, and I've had 100 calls from gyms and salons and all these people. This doesn't even say that gyms have to close. You just have to avoid them. It's a risk, right? The punishment, so-called, from this is, I think it's $50 to $2,000, and it's 180 days. The governor can't, in my opinion, the governor can't pass that. Can't just decide that's a law. But you have to deal with reality. If you're out in the hinterlands and you got some sheriff that thinks he's all that, and boy, he's here to convince me he's going to do what the governor says. You know, you can't beat the ride, as they say. You got to figure out what you're going to do. If I were out in the hinterland somewhere, I would quietly take care of my regular customers. I wouldn't splash it out. I wouldn't say, hey, pick me to pick on. I wouldn't do that. But I would not have any problem opening up. I just wouldn't. There's some other people. People talked about where Shelley is. As you know, we represent Shelley Luther. We're not doing it completely pro bono. It started off pretty pro bono. People have been donating. We appreciate that. We can only do so much. And there's a fund to go do that. But we are the attorneys for our office for Shelley Luther. Shelley has received a citation. She got a visit from the code department. The city really, really wants to shut her down. For them, this is a death match. It is all about that because she has popped up and said, I think your ruling is not right, and I'm willing to go to jail. Now, so which is kind of funny because you have the Dallas that wants to let people out, real criminals, rapists, murderers. It's a good time to be a criminal in Dallas because they're going to let you out, and they're going to put the people that are civilly disobedient by giving people what they want, which is a haircut, which is usually not a big deal. And I find that amazing. And so you have the doctor of Dallas saying, oh, yeah, you got to do whatever you got to do. Now, let's pull up the governor when he's talking about this. He had an opportunity. The governor was asked about this, whether she should go to jail or what cases like this should be done. That's not that. It is, isn't it? Okay. We're going to play that last second. Do we have a sound? Works. So we probably have to put up with. Can you, let's see. No, that was it. Go back. Okay, so we're going to have to cue that up. He's going to cue that up while we're talking about it. But the governor has asked, if we're going to allow random statements by the governor to be controlling authority that a judge can just grab onto and say, I'm going to take this particular random thought and I'm going to call that law, then we ought to look at all those things. And what we're getting ready to pull up, Governor Abbott is, what's the problem? Okay, so. I don't know how you sound. Well, just turn it on, and then turn on your sound.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
So, there we go. There we go.
Over here.
Well, just turn it on, and then, well, it's on. Turn it on too. Just one. All right, we're struggling with this. I'll post this on my website in a few minutes, but just forget it. But it's Fox 4, Governor Abbott is about this, and he says, well, we're working with her. I happen to know they've sent a representative, and they're talking about this. But at no point does Governor Abbott say she should be put in jail. Doesn't say that at all. Not a bit. He had an ample opportunity to say that, and he didn't. Why is that? Well, you got to put yourself in the governor's situation. He doesn't want everybody just resuming life as normal. And a lot of these guys that are in elected office are fearful of that because they see lunatics walking around and just acting like everything's normal. And it may be normal for lots of people, but it's not normal for everybody. Remember, the survival rate of this thing is about 99% plus whatever. So, but there are a small number of people, and everybody knows somebody who's died young, right? So just because there's a vulnerable population that's old doesn't mean that young people don't get it. And I'm not telling you that you should wear a mask. I'm not telling you that you should not wear a mask. I would say do whatever you want to do, but do it deliberately. Don't be a lunatic. Don't assume that this virus isn't going to mutate into Walking Dead and so World War Z next week. I don't know that. Nobody does. But I can tell you that the idea that a salon operated by somebody that's got 1,500 hours approved by the TDLR, a lot of that is training on how to do things with sterile equipment and protecting their clients. Somehow that's more dangerous or a material safety hazard when you're allowing liquor stores and grocery stores to go pretty much whatever they want. Oh, sure, they may have some signs up, but Dallas isn't out policing that. Dallas isn't going into the east side washaterias and making sure that all these people that are walking around with 3 generations of people, kids climbing everywhere, there's no problem there. Police aren't going after those guys. Nope, they're going after salons. So I wouldn't do that. If I were, I would think that Dallas has something else to do. You're asking all the salons and the vape shops and all these people that you're closing down. You're asking them to take this huge reality hit, and you're saying, well, if you don't care about people, you're just letting people die. There are real-world scenario problems with that approach. Pull up the last 2 articles I sent you earlier. This is not an economy versus people problem. This is, there you go. Is that up? So this is a real-world. This is the UN and this is Reuters, right? This is not one of my conservative places, but you're talking about a global extreme poverty hit that real people are going to suffer. Real people are going to suffer. And the one before that, this is a great article put together by one of our local reps. The trade-off between the medically fragile and the where is it? Scroll up. So this is put together by Steve Toth. He's a federal state rep, and he is talking about how what we're doing here is we're saying we're not going to care about the number of people that commit suicide. And we're not going to care about anybody who's damaged. We're not going to care about the various sorts of abuse that are going to occur. All we're going to look at is one statistic. And we're not even looking at that. We're talking about COVID deaths, but when we're really not even looking at that. We're really looking at number of cases, and we're making a big deal out of it. I'm not saying it's a small deal. I'm just saying it's not the only deal. It's not the only deal. At the beginning of this thing, we said we're going to flatten the spread so the medical processes could be not overwhelmed. You got people in hospitals that are being laid off because they're so bored. People are not going to the hospital because they're afraid of getting the virus. It's not. We are actively hurting people by discouraging them to go to the hospital because they're so deathly afraid to do what they need to do. So this overreach is actively hurting people. And there's also, and I've posted about this before too, for every 1% the unemployment goes up, suicide goes up about that amount too. So and people can fight about the stats a little bit, but what should be obvious is that if you damage a person's ability to employ themselves, then you're hurting them psychologically, and some people are going to be impacted by that a lot. And so when someone says, well, they should just be tougher, I can say, well, you should just have a better constitution. Can't you just isolate the old? Can't you wear a face mask and protect yourself? You could do that very easily. Nobody needs to go to Shelley Luther's salon. You don't have to go. You don't. Nobody's forcing you. And you can wear a face mask around other people, and you can say, you don't get to come into my house unless I know that you're safe. We can make all those rules. You can protect yourself from this thing. You can order your groceries if you don't want to go to the grocery store. You have 100% control over that, or nearly. But Shelley and all the salon folks and all the gymnasiums, they have zero way of protecting themselves except to hire me and hope for the best whenever a government is endorsing and creating a horrible disaster of this economics. I would remind you, back, if you're my age or right around my age, we had this, Ethiopia was the breadbasket of the world, and then it became a place of extreme poverty, only by government action. It is government action that's doing the problem here. A couple other things we ought to talk about. We have filed an application for writ of mandamus with the Supreme Court of Texas. So this is all Texas stuff. The reason for that is that Texas actually has more protection for its rights and for its people than the federal government, the Constitution. The federal Constitution has a lot of rules But the Texas itself has a better set of protections. And so so you have the writ up here. And so this is a number of people. You see Shelley with Salon a la mode up top. A lot of this was actually started a lot by the vape people. I want to shout out to those guys. And it was interesting. Vape people, vape shops, what do they sell? They sell consumer electronics. It's kind of a weird thing to think about, but that's what they do. They sell heaters, they sell ohm meters, they sell a lot of electronics. GameStop, franchise GameStop, also sells consumer electronics. So we're a month into this so-called pandemic, and you've got GameStop is open, doing curbside service, but you got a lot of these cities are picking up vape shops because, well, let's face facts, good people, we have to do it like this. Good people really just don't do vape shops, right? So we can pick on them and nobody cares. So you have code enforcement and sheriffs going out to vape shops, shutting them down. So they're the ones that actually started all this. And they said, look, we should even be protected by this. And I agree. If you just do the standard, follow the rules, consumer electronics stores can be open. That's why Best Buy is open. That's why the few remaining Fry's are still open. Those guys are open because consumer electronics are considered essential. And so vape shops should be open as well. And people say, well, that's not really necessary. Well, why are all your sheriff's people, why are they not going to the GameStop? Is there a less essential store on the planet than a GameStop? I think you can get everything that they sell there online. But they're open, and I don't want to pick on them necessarily, but I just want to show the hypocrisy. So what we're doing is we're filing this document. This is an emergency petition for writ of mandamus. Shout out to Briscoe Kane, who helped us file this. He's on board. He's given us some good information. And so there's all the people that are trying to do this, and then you have all the people that we're going against on here. Clay Jenkins, he's out of control. If you elect Democrats that don't have any understanding what's going on in the world, this is what you get. Eric Johnson, who's kind of just his plaything. And then we have some other people that are doing some other things. And so this really should have been against all of the major organizations. Governor Abbott is another party that's not really, we're not suing him. But whenever you're challenging a law, it's a good idea to let the governor know. So we're not suing the governor, we're not suing Ken Paxton, but we are letting him know that we're doing this. If you want to take a look at this petition, this application, you can go online. I may have it up, I may not have it up, but you can go to the Supreme Court filings, and you can put in my name, Norred. There's not a lot of Norreds in there, Norred, and it'll pull up all of my appellate work. And I think the second one down is this mandamus request. So, there it is. So, and you can read that to your heart's desire. So, what else we need to cover before we get going? I thought it was funny. The cops came in to talk to Shelley not too long ago. They weren't wearing masks. Should you wear a mask or do you not know worse? I don't know if you should wear a mask or not. This is what I do know. I do know when a medical authority tells me not to wear a mask, and we find out later that he was telling me that just so I wouldn't go out and get them all, so they'd be all for the medical people who it does help, who he believes it will help. I find that to be a dereliction of duty. It's malgovernance. It's lying by an official, government official. And that tells me I can never, ever, ever trust that person again at all. And I would encourage that. Are there any questions? Would be questions coming up, or do we know?
Let me pull them up for you.
I will finish my major presentation by saying that this was always supposed to be about not stopping people from getting the virus, but about flattening the curve. So this idea that somebody may get the virus, therefore we're going to put people in jail or fine them heavily, is missing it. Is totally missing it. We're not going to have a vaccine for a year, year and a half. So what are you going to do for the next year and a half? People are slowly going to have to get it. They're going to have to work their way through it. Now, this is not like chicken pox. Back when I was a kid, we got chicken pox. We all got in the same room. We got it. And occasionally, when you do that, somebody dies, which is not good. It's still the common practice. Lots and lots of places. So people just get it. Nobody wants anybody to die. So the question is, what are we doing here? We're trying to flatten so that the medical folks can take care of the people that get it. Are we doing that? I do have a site. There it is. That's it. Okay, so let's pull that up. Go down to Texas and look at the deaths per day. I got it. This is deaths per day. Hospital. It's all about the hospital use. So this is a graph. Make this graph a little bit smaller. This is up here, this purple line. This is how many hospital beds we have. That's how many beds we have. And then we have the actual ICU beds that we have. And then we have, this is where we are. It is possible that we could exceed our ICU beds, but it's very unlikely. You can see that's where we are down there. All beds needed is that purple line. So we are far below capacity. We have medical people who are bored, literally, because people are not coming into the hospital because they have thought, they were all told, we're going to be overrun. It's going to be horrible. What are we going to do? Well, we've cut this thing down, and now people will sometimes say, well, we did because we did what we're supposed to do. Maybe, or maybe just we would have gotten the same thing by isolating the vulnerable. And maybe if we put our resources to isolating the vulnerable, we wouldn't have as many dead people. But when we say everybody is equally vulnerable, so we're going to spend our resources protecting everybody, that means we're necessarily not protecting some people as much as we could, because we're overprotecting some of these other people. Yes, there have been a handful of young people that have died, but we all understand that 1%, it's 1%, the 90% plus, I think it's 80% plus, no, it's 90% of the people who have died are over 55, 90%. So where do you think our resources should be? Isolating the young, or isolating the old. Are there any questions?
We have one on why hasn't there been, or how come a desperate impact or discriminatory effect has been added to a complaint?
Why has there been no, well, we've had an equal protection. You know, that article, I think it's Article 3 of the Texas Bill of Rights. I pull up my, just to sort of a revisit on the Texas Bill of Rights, my banner page. We've got just go to my Facebook page.
Oh, yes, sir.
If you look at the Texas Constitution, it's very clear.
Oh, well, that's good.
And I've got a snippet.
Northern law, yours?
No, mine, my personal.
Yes, sir.
And so the Texas Bill of Rights can never be abridged. You can never set aside or suspend the Texas Bill of Rights. In fact, in one part of the Constitution, it says, even in case of enemy attack, we are, and you lose the capital, you don't suspend the Bill of Rights, ever, ever. And Article 3, I believe,
Sure
top, all the way top. And click on my banner page. There we go.
That's what you're saying.
Okay, so I did this just so people can see the part that's so people can see it all in one spot. So if you look there, where is it? This way?
There you go, right here.
Right there, okay. You see, provided, however, Article 1 of the Constitution of Texas, called the Bill of Rights. This is just straightforward. I copied this from the Texas website on this, which is easy to find. The Bill of Rights shall not be in any manner affected, amended, impaired, suspended, repealed by, or any way. You don't get to do that, right? And so, and then right down there below there, you see how the governor may, on extraordinary occasions, convene the legislature at the seat of government, which is Austin, or at a different place. And why? In the case of the prevalence of disease threat. Prevalence of disease threat. And I don't know how many state constitutions say that, but I'm kind of surprised that ours does. So anyway, so that's the point there is the Bill of Rights is never messed with. All laws contrary thereto or to the following provisions shall be void. So in our lawsuit, we don't talk about disparate impact because I think that Article 3 that talks about equal rights, which I don't think is on here, it's not on here, says that everybody has the same rights. So we kind of have it in there. We haven't talked about it a lot, but it's a good point. And if we can get to it, I'll just tell you that I have been busy, and even with the help that I've been given, it's hard to do these things timely. I mean, what's really going to happen here? The Supreme Court may or may not come out and say something in any timely fashion. All these cities are going to slow boat everything. People in Dallas, they're just going to go as slow as possible and mess with us. Eventually, the governor is going to let everybody go back to work, and everybody's going to say, well, it's all moot. Get out, because the emergency's over. But there are some exceptions. capable of repetition and likely to be repeated is one of the exceptions. And so even though this situation may go away in 1 week or 1 month, I think it's funny, the meme that's going around where the time traveler comes back and says, oh, what year is it? And the person says it's 2020, and the time traveler from the future says, oh, it's the first year of the quarantine. Yeah, it could be like that. Who knows? I don't know. So I do know that flus come and go. I know that COVID-19 is going to come and go. And we may have another resurgence. So I don't want this to die down a little bit. And because we have a few more cases, although the hospitals can still handle it and handle it with great ease, I don't want a few cases in 2 months to come back and be a problem. So this case is going to go forward. We are going to have a discussion about how we handle these things. What we cannot do, and this is the problem, Section 418 of the Texas Government Code says that the governor can do a lot of things. He can establish executive orders and then treat it like law. Okay. Now I could take you through it, and it's a million cases in our. If you go look at our application for writ of mandamus, we go through that a little bit. The governor doesn't make law. Are there exceptions? There are exceptions. There are exceptions whenever the Texas state legislature says we're going to establish a policy, and that policy needs to be handled in a certain way, and we're going to hand it off to the governor or to an administrative body like TDLR to implement our policy. You can do that. But it has to be implementation of a policy that's fairly mechanistic. It can't be, TDLR can't come out and say, you know, we've decided that everybody needs to wear white so we can see any stain. That's beyond what the policy is established. And it's also true that on the day after the pandemic hits, we're all going to have a little more sympathy for overreach. But as time goes on, we expect things to be more and more rational. And where we are today is not rational. It's just not. So back to the exceptions. The governor says by this law, I can give power to the county judges and mayors, and they have the powers of the governor to the extent, well, it just says they have the powers of the governor whenever they establish an emergency declaration. Now, what's funny is you'll see right there on my banner page that the governor doesn't get to suspend laws. Now, nobody's complaining about suspending the alcohol pickup laws. And we don't complain about that in our writ of application for mandamus. I'm not interested in that. But the fact is the governor cannot suspend laws. But what's funny is the governor gets all these laws that are kind of dubious, powers that are dubious, that the county judges are supposed to be part of his emergency team. But they come and go with his rules. They decide, I'm going to do an emergency and I'm going to not allow elective surgery, or I'm going to allow certain elective surgeries. They say we're going to have masks or not masks. They're going to go a little bit farther than they're supposed to go. So what does the governor do? He issues his executive order, and it says, what do we have here? Yeah, so that was an interesting little adventure in overreach. But the governor in his last GA-18, go to the executive order right there, and go to find 1015. He suspends. So he suspends this law that's within this. So he's got a law that says he can suspend laws which are contrary to the Constitution, and then he suspends the dubious law because the county judges and mayors are using it dubiously. I find this to be somewhat humorous in a nerdy legal manner, but here we are. So he has told the county judges and mayors that they are not allowed to do things that are more restrictive, effectively, than what he's done. So the governor said, here's my executive order. You've got to close these. You can't go to nursing homes. People shall avoid salons. It doesn't say you have to close. You just have to avoid them. And oh, by the way, county judges and mayors, you don't get to be more restrictive than I've outlined. And yet here they are. Because these are small-minded people, a lot of them, and they love the power and the attention. And some of them, to be fair, they just want people to be safe. So I'm not going to say every county judge and every mayor is evil. That's not where I'm going. I'm just saying that it is their natural bent. They're like hammers. We're going to nail the hammers. We use our hammer to nail things, and that's what we do. So they've got power. They're going to protect people. And what they're not paying attention to are all the people that are being devastated by these rules. Devastated. And if all of their sacrifice was actually going to mean something, be tangible, it would be different. But But you can't take somebody who's just doing work for individuals, one or two people in their salon. They wash their hands and they go in. What we're assuming here, and this is I want people to get this. We are assuming that every grocery store, every liquor store is doing what it needs. What I refer to as the petri dish daycare, because all these kids, 3-year-olds running around, you think they know something about personal space? Probably not. Eating each other's snot. So you can't do that and say, these people are the ones spreading the virus, but we're going to punish these people over here so we can say we're doing something. This is what I'd say to you. A lot of the people like you that are complaining about that, you've got a cushy government job, or you're staying home with your newborn, you got the best life in the world. You know, I can appreciate that. Or you're being overpaid for not working, so now you don't want to go back to work. And you're saying, why don't everybody stay home? Not everybody has that. All the salon people, they make their money. They're 1099s. There's no government grant for them. They're just going to suck it up. And a lot of them are going to struggle. And so I've had people posting pictures and people have been beaten. And the pressures of people that are being really hurt. Psychologically, they are fragile and they are going to break on this issue. And the fact is they should not be taking this kind of damage just so somebody can say they're doing something. When the Dallas police and the Dallas cops and these thugs that run their courts start going after all these little washaterias, all the grocery stores and the poor parts of the neighborhood, because that's where it's going, and say, you guys space out. Mean it. You got to mean it. I'll start listening to what you say. But as long as you just say, well, it's a pandemic, so I can enforce whatever law I want, which is what I heard not too long ago, I have no sympathy for you, and I don't really want to hear what you have to say, because you've told me that you really don't care about people. Tell you what, all of you people that think that the salons are just doing the wrong thing, I want you to donate all of your money, 100%, because that's what they're doing, 100% of your income to helping the poor out, 100%. Because if you don't, then you don't care about people and you want them to die. So, I don't know, what else do we have? We got a question?
The Texas Supreme Court recently released an opinion on mandamus where the first sentence of that opinion states, the Constitution is not suspended when the government declares a state of disaster.
Hallelujah. Pull up our, I don't know if you have that response.
For the
Motion to reconsider.
I can pull that up.
Yeah,
the question was, do you believe that this may indicate that Shelley's claims will have fertile ground with the High Court?
I think the High Court is eager to do a couple of things. And people have asked me why I haven't sued the governor, because the governor is the foundation for this. That's not quite true. Whenever you have a failure like this, you have a number of people that are failing. The first people that failed was the legislature when they wrote this law. Now, to be fair, and I've learned this only when I became an attorney, it's hard writing good law. It is, I promise you. You'd think that it's not that hard, but it is. Especially a law like this. This was the Disaster Act of 1975. Of course, the Democrats are in charge, but we won't blame them for just being Democrats. But they wrote a law, and it's not a law that gets used very often, so you don't really see the holes in it. And so 2005 comes along. We have Katrina. We have a number of hurricanes. So we're told by the national folks, amend your law and give power to the mayors and the county judges to control ingress and egress from damaged areas. So the part of the law that's being misused in this way is designed to allow a mayor to say, the tornado went through this part of the city, we're not going to let anybody in. It is not designed to say, I'm going to let you, alcohol be sold. Liquor stores, I like liquor, I drink wine, and I like a little Jack every once in a while because I'm a sophisticated person. So I'm going to allow liquor stores to be open. But I'm not a vape guy, so I'm going to come down hard on them. It's not designed for that. It's designed to say, here's an area, you can go into it, or because we've cleaned it up, or you got to get out because the lava is coming, or whatever's going on, flood's coming. So you got to get out. That's what that's designed for. So the first people that failed was they wrote an overreaching law, and that was the legislature. And they wound up giving way too much power to the governor. So the governor now has this power, and if you ask a governor to use power, baby, they're going to use it. That's just what they do. So the governor's making his power, and he's trying to do what he thinks is best. Is he a tyrannical beast that wants to hurt the world, wants to deliberately hurt salons? No, he's not. He's just doing what he thinks is right, and he's writing executive orders. Well, what's the problem with that? Well, As you may have heard, it is hard to write a bill. It takes months. You get people that come in with hearings and they go through on and on and on, and it takes a long time to write that bill. But he comes out with an executive order, boom, it's done. And so that executive order is not precise as it would like to be. It may not have all the holes filled the way it needs to. And then it goes down to the county judges and mayors. A lot of those guys are not attorneys at all, and a lot of them are thugs. Some of them are. I know some that are not, but some are. And you get sheriffs. They're out in the hinterland. Well, I'm the law around here, boy. So we got a case in another county where the sheriff is being overbearing and saying, well, I'm going to interpret the way I want. That's wrong. That's wrong. And the reason, so you have a number of people that are failing. You see, I want to give a shout out to Montgomery County. Their county judge looked at this and he had the exact same analysis that I did. He said, look, shall avoid is that's nothing. I don't know what that means. And he went through that. There's a video on it. You can look up Montgomery County judge. You'll see, I think Midland is just telling people that they've got to use hand conditioner or hand sanitizer. You've got Kellyville. Kellyville's wide open to some degree. I think they probably still have something that says that you got to be careful. But the point is that we are not all middle of Dallas. We are not all the middle of Houston. And if you want to say, if the governor wanted to say, look, here are some rules, some guidelines, but you got a density of 4,000 people per square mile, which is Arlington and Mansfield and those areas, we're not going to have the same problems that New York City has. And if you want to think about it, I want you to think about this in graphical terms. You live in a suburb, at least I live in Arlington, right? If you want to take every single family home and make it 20 stories, so make every home 20 stories, take every 3-story set of apartments, make it 100 stories tall. Now you have the same density as New York City, and you can understand why disease and flows through there much easier than it does in Arlington, or even in Dallas. Dallas has got what, 10, 15,000 per square mile. It's 5 or 6 times less. Like it's a fifth, something like that, of New York City. Those are special situations. We don't need to have the same set of solutions all over the country, and we certainly don't need it inside all of Texas. But even if you want to say that we're going to go with the GA18, GA16, GA14 orders, what we know is shall avoid is not the same thing as shall not. The governor is a competent English speaker. He has been using the English language now very well for many years. He knows what he was doing. And anybody who comes up to you and says, TDLR says this, you show them the state rep's letter, which I'll post that too, so you have that. Any other questions before we're done?
All I see, where's the emergency plan mentioned in chapter 14, and some other comments.
Yeah, there's been a question about that. I think the plan that's going on now is the one we showed a few minutes ago, and these things can't have all the details in them, right? They just can't, because you can't think of all the details, and you have a limited amount of time. I think that it's missing, actually. I don't see it. But frankly, I haven't worried about that. I'm worried about that. I'm worried about people that are taking the utterance of the governor as a law, and they're interpreting the utterance in the way that they want to interpret it so that they can do what they want because they feel like they're special and because they've gotten some power. And that's the problem. And so we are going to be paying the price for the poverty that we cause people over this last month and a half for a long, long time. For a long, long time. It's horrible, and you can't imagine it. We have farmers that are destroying crops. We have steer that's being put down for all the wrong reasons. But you can go online, you can find all kinds of farmers talking about what they're having to do. It reminds me of what I was told I've read about under FDR in the Great Depression, where he deliberately said, we're going to destroy crops to make the prices higher, which is so many kinds of wrong, where you had to train the oxen to trample the crops that they helped plant earlier in the season. That is literally, that's not literally, we're going to use the word properly, it's metaphorically, analogically, the same thing. So I don't want to go too long. Be safe. Isolate the vulnerable. If you are vulnerable, please stay home. But don't stop somebody from going to a salon. And in fact, I talked to one not too long ago that they all wear masks. They've always worn masks. They've always worn masks because they do work on people's faces, and their idea is the patient doesn't want to see, the client doesn't want to feel the breath on them. So feel free to send questions. I may take a while to get back to you. Last things, I've been asked about a class action for the stylists. I've given a price for that. That'd be to file it. Who knows how far that would go? I expect the writ to be the way that we're going. I know that Michigan recently had its order came out. The judges in Michigan said, yeah, we're going to let this go. That's not Texas. It's not Texas. Hear people talk about the Jacobson case, which is a case some time ago where they were forcing people to take a vaccine. That was federal law. It's not applicable to Texas under the Texas Constitution. Remember, Texas protects its rights for its people better than any other state I know. And so whenever you sue somebody, you can sue them in federal court on federal stuff or on local stuff. Yeah, it's in the state constitution. State constitution is stronger than most of these constitutions, and they protect the rights of its citizens better. But you have to mean it. You have to have people that appreciate that, and you have to stand up and fight back. Thank you very much for showing up. Please spread this to other people. I guess all the weasel words. This is not legal advice. Unless you pay me and I tell you something, then I'm not your attorney. If you go to the YouTube, and I'm not sure where this even is on because these are hard to do. Please follow us on YouTube on NORAD Law, the NORAD Law website, NORAD Law YouTube, because that's where all this is eventually going to go. I'm personally kind of concerned about Facebook. It's shown, and YouTube as well. They're showing that they're likely to cut off valid information because it doesn't agree with their ideology. So we may go to, what's Vimeo? Vimeo at some point. But I'm not on Vimeo yet. So follow us on YouTube if you would, and Facebook, NORAD Law, and we'll talk to you another time. Good luck and stay safe.